Um, all right, appreciate everybody being here. Really good Sunday practice yesterday. I felt a lot of and heard and saw a lot of accountability from most everybody on our team for the poor performance on Saturday, which was very encouraging to see, and got our work in yesterday, and watched a little bit of Oklahoma last night, and obviously knee deep in that preparation here this morning. Injury report: Deli Adeoye, unfortunately, subluxed his shoulder again. I thought we could get him through the season without surgery, but the thing popped out again, and Deli's going to need surgery to repair that, so he will be out. Roshan Johnson with a shoulder sprain should be available to us hopefully early in the week in practice. Reese Lato with his knee sprain, and Tyler Owens with a knee/hamstring sprain. Both are probably doubtful at this time. Josh Moore has a femoral contusion, so it was more of a bone bruise than anything. So he is listed as probable right now, hoping to have him back for practice, as well as Jordan Whittington did practice yesterday, and it went well, and we expect him to practice this Tuesday, and if he makes it through practice this week, to be available to us for the game on Saturday. So again, extremely excited to play Oklahoma in the Red River Showdown, and I know our players are eager to roll up their sleeves, get back to work, and make sure that we improve the things that we know we can, that are fixable, improvable, and hopefully have that translate better on Saturday. Questions?
Brian, go ahead. You can start us off.
Yeah, Tom, the way these last two games have gone, I wanted to ask you a big picture question. Here in year 4, a year that everyone in that building had circled, where do you see real progress?
Oh, I think, anytime you get better week in and week out, that's progress. We're installing a brand new defensive system with all new coaches, with no spring practice, and a training camp that was unique, for any lack of a better term. So we knew that there was going to be growing pains on that side of the ball, and unfortunately we made the change in system prior to the pandemic, and knowing what the last 7 months was going to entail. But these are the cards that we've been dealt. So I thought our defense, our tackling improved. I thought our red zone defense definitely improved. Our third down defense improved. I think, Sam is on a record pace right now. I thought the right side of our offensive line played played much more improved than they did against Texas Tech. And so I see a ton of improvement from week to week. I think, we kind of knew that defensively, when you install a new package like this, that there were going to be some growing pains. And, it's our job as coaches to expedite that process as quickly as we can. But, when an offense shows you a new formation, a new motion, a new scheme, there's a lack of banked reps, from experience in this system. So literally every time they're seeing something on Saturday that's new, it's quite literally the first time they've ever seen it in this defensive package. And so, I feel like we made a lot of improvement in a lot of areas, and we'll continue to do so in this crazy year.
Chuck, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, kind of piggybacking on that, but on the coach's call today, you said that regardless of the result in Tech and TCU, it's kind of the same script in both games. I was just curious, you mentioned the new install, but were you seeing, I guess, concerning signs even in preseason camp or even after the UTEP game, or did these two games, I guess, tell you a little bit more about about your team that maybe you didn't know?
Yeah, I think these two games definitely told us a lot that we didn't know. And rightfully so, for in the sake of player safety, had very limited scrimmage opportunities in fall camp with our players being their conditioning and physical fitness levels being where they were, and then felt like we played how we should have played against UTEP, and then these last 2 weeks happened, and again, as I said on the call, all of the issues that we have right now are fixable. And, I remember, maybe I've got a bit longer memory than some, but just 2 short seasons ago, this program lost 2 straight in conference and wound up playing for the conference championship and winning a New Year's Six bowl game. So we're not going to panic after 3 games. We're not going to panic after a 2-point conference loss. We know we've got a ton of improvement that we need to make. And, it was a really, really good Sunday. Really, really good Sunday. Our players came in very accountable and extremely eager to go back to work and fix the problems. And you would have liked those lessons to have been learned in a win. But I think sometimes the only way with 18 to 22-year-olds is to have that awful taste in your mouth in order to learn some very difficult lessons. But we got a long season ahead of us, and nobody in this building is panicking one bit. This program has overcome much more difficult odds than losing its 3rd ball game. I know I was a part of a team in Columbus, Ohio that lost its 2nd ball game, got blown out at home, won a national championship. Jay Boulware started 1-2 at Oklahoma with losses to Ohio State and Houston, wound up winning the conference. So in 2020, nobody in this building is going to panic after a week 3 2-point loss at home. Now that's not saying we're not or that we are burying our head in the sands to the tremendous amount of issues that we have to correct. But again, if we cross the goal line and score a touchdown at the end of the game there and win the game, does that erase all of the issues? No, it doesn't. You got the same issues. You got the same issues, win or lose. And, we would have had all of the issues that we're trying to correct this week. They would have still existed had we found a way to pull that game out and win it. So we understand that. We're not panicked. We're focused on the here and now and worried about making the necessary improvements in order to play better this Saturday.
Howie, go ahead.
Coach, after the TCU game, you said you were going to talk to the leadership council. Did you do that? And if you so, how did you feel leaving after talking with them? And again, and 2, with the way you guys are playing and with the way OU is struggling, has this game lost any luster heading into it?
I didn't talk to the group as a whole. I will do that tomorrow. Today's their day off. But I talked to a bunch of guys. And again, unbelievable Sunday. Unbelievable. Maybe the best Sunday we've had around here. And I know I'm prone to hyperbole, but I tell you how I feel, too. And that is certainly how I feel leaving that. If it makes you feel any better, when I got home late last night, I told my wife the same thing. So it's definitely a different feel around here. And in talking to those guys, there's a lot of accountability on that side in that locker room, in the players' locker room. And then does it lose any luster? No. I mean, this is, in my opinion, the greatest rivalry in college football, and very unique in terms of where it's played and when it's played. And I know a lot of that is going to be different because of 2020, but this is still OU Texas and always will be.
Jim, you have a question?
Yeah, hey, Tom, we were talking about the luster of this rivalry with this game. Things are going to be so much different with the atmosphere at this game that is so often defined by the atmosphere of the game. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on just how different that will be on the field for you and the players? And given some of the changes that we know with reduced crowds and stuff, is there anything you'll miss about that?
Yeah, I don't know how it will look just because nobody's ever seen it, done it before at a neutral site game. I know we've had one road game and 2 home games thus far, and I know our home games, they feel like a home game, and the road game felt like a road game. I mean, it actually got loud in Lubbock with all the music prompts, the scoreboards on, the fans that are in the stands cheering. So how that translates to a neutral site, I'm not quite sure, Jim. And probably the thing I will miss the most is the drive, right? The bus ride through the crowd, through the state fair, into the stadium. That is, again, what makes this rivalry so special. It's not just 2 interstate rivals. It's 2 interstate rivals that happen to play every year at one of the most historic venues in our nation, and during the Texas State Fair. So that'll be, I'm sure, what I miss the most.
Kirk, you have a question?
Yeah, Tom. Oklahoma's 0-2 in the league. You lost a home game. The national perception seems to be you can stick a fork in the Big 12 because it's done and won't have a role in the playoff or anything else. Does that anger you, amuse you, or what are your thoughts on that?
Boy, if we're trying to predict the season after 3 games, there's a lot of people with a lot more time on their hands than me. Yeah, I don't know what benefit that serves to try to predict anything in this crazy year after 3 ball games. So no, I haven't given it any thought. We'll try to take care of our business 1 week at a time, go 1-0 this week against our rival, and we'll let the national landscape unfold over the next 2 months.
And do you think we're going to see a lot more parity? And we look like we're seeing it in the Big 12, but all around the landscape this year, especially.
I don't know. I got home on Saturday and I watched a Big 12 game, so on TV. So I haven't watched much of any other conference play, but I know that anytime you have the level of quarterbacks and skill position players that are in this league, you're going to have a ton of parity, especially in a year like this. And so I would imagine in other leagues they're probably facing similar circumstances, assuming that they went into quarantine or whatever, went into March with the same level of parity that we had in the Big 12 even prior to the last 7 months.
Max, go ahead.
Tom, if the ball hadn't got punched out at the end there'd probably be a perception right now that this team is kind of figuring out how to win close ball games. I'm curious, have you seen that belief and that swagger a little bit in your team so far, that they have more confidence in these close games right now as you kind of get ready for a tough road ahead?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if more is the right answer. I think we always have. We've had a lot of close ones around here, wins and losses in our 4 years. So I think, our guys are very confident in our ability. Certainly what we were able to overcome in Lubbock added to that. And so, and anytime you have Sam Ehlinger at quarterback, you're going to feel confident that as long as there's a couple ticks left on the clock that, he's going to find a way to get it done. But we've always been a pretty confident crew in tight ball games.
Roger, you're up.
Tom, we're seeing more and more of tight ends stretch the field in this conference, kind of, a little bit of a change.
Yeah, we converted a 3rd and 25 throwing a dig route to our tight end. That's pretty cool.
OU always seems to have that guy, and now, first off, what do you see with Rattler? But then I know they've got all the speed guys, but Stogner seems like another kind of a matchup nightmare.
Yeah, I have always been fascinated by Oklahoma's offense. I think Coach Riley does a phenomenal job. I go back to the year that they had Mark Andrews and Dimitri Flowers, and everybody looks at the quarterback in that offense. But I think what people forget is, they spent pretty much the entire year in 12 personnel with Mark Andrews and Dimitri Flowers, and they were able to use Mark Andrews and flex him out, very similar to what you saw Iowa State do, being 12, sometimes 13 personnel, and give defenses formations that are usually reserved for 10 and 11 personnel. And so it really causes defenses fits when you have to play in a nickel personnel group because of all the space when they do flex out, but the very next snap they could compress in and create a heavy formation that gives you problems as well. And so I think when Coach Riley and that offense are going well, that they've always been able to do that is really only play with 2 wide receivers. That's all they really play with and have the last few years at least that we played them. And they have a true tight end / flex tight end like Austin Stogner, like Mark Andrews before him, and more of a fullback in the core tight end like Dimitri Flowers and like the young man they have right now. And so poses a lot of challenges just because of the different formations they can get in.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. So Texas fans have a lot to say. They have really high expectations. So how do you block out the noise after a loss?
Well, I haven't gotten on anything other than Yahoo News. So I know a lot more about our president's health condition and some of the celebrity gossip than I do about our fans' reaction to us losing. So I think anytime you subject yourself to people that are outside the arena, you're asking for trouble. I was talking to Dabo, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, just talking about practice schedules, and he said something. I'm sure I'd heard it before, but it was a really, really timely reminder, and I carried it with me all weekend. It's not the water outside the boat that sinks ships. It's the water that you allow inside the boat that does. And so, I reminded our players that on Sunday. It's pretty easy to be reminded that around here. And, our guys, they know what they signed up for, so did I. And when you come to a place like Texas, there's going to be very high expectations and a lot of people who think they know how to do your job and play your position and all of that. And, our job is to put our nose to the grindstone and continue to improve.
Bob, you're up.
2 questions, Tom. First, what are your initial impressions of Spencer Rattler? And then second, on that second to last possession, the one before the fumble where you went 3 and out, it looked like Buchevsky hesitated, like he almost was going to fake the punt. Did you, I don't know if you've seen that or got that sense at all. Was there a chance he was going to fake that there? Because it looked, on TV at least, it looked pretty open, except for one lineman that maybe might have gotten in his head.
Yeah, to your Spencer Rattler question, yeah, really, really impressed for a guy that, is just taking over the starting role. He's got a great command of the offense, can make plays with his feet, phenomenal thrower of the football, very quick release, very accurate, strong arm, can throw from multiple different arm angles. So kind of the total package, if you will. And then, that punt at the very end, that TCU only had 10 guys out on the field, and so there was a pretty gaping hole there. But no, our punter knows that unless we've given him the option to do that ball needs to get punted.
Danny, go ahead.
Tom, going back to what you were talking about, the tight ends, is there a perfect way to defend that? Is that a longer day for your safeties, your linebackers? Is there a way to defend that well?
Well, they've been averaging about 44 points a game for the last 4 years, so I don't know that if there is, anybody's figured it out just yet. So, no, it's difficult. It really is, and Danny, but we have played them well in our 3 games in the Cotton Bowl defensively, and I would expect us to do the same this year.
Ed, you have a question?
I do, Coach. Jake Smith showed a little spark, a real big spark Saturday. Talk about Jake being back and just what he brings to the offense and just what he brings for Saturday.
Well, it'll allow us, I think probably the biggest thing is just depth. Yeah, he's a really good player, Ed, and, does provide us a spark, and we definitely missed him in Lubbock. But I think the bigger deal is that it allows us now, if Josh Moore is still gimpy come tomorrow's practice, it allows us to move Brendan Schooler back outside to the Z receiver position. Marcus Washington was dealing with an ankle all week. He didn't play either, so we were hurting pretty significantly at the Z receiver position, so much so that when Josh did get hurt, we tried to move Jake out there, knowing he's a pretty cerebral kid, but it was just too much for him with just 1 week of practice under his belt, and then kind of scrapped that idea after about a series or two. But I think him being back and back to full strength allows us to mix and match some of the other pieces around when guys do get dinged up.
Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, obviously this is going to be your fourth and final trip to the Cotton Bowl with Sam. You guys have had.
How do you know that, Nick? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, possibly could be one more, but
likely to be the last one. Yeah, likely to be the last one.
Likely, unless Sam shocks everyone and comes back for one more year. So likely heading into your last trip to the Cotton Bowl with Sam. Obviously, we could tell how disappointed and upset he was after Saturday's game. So just kind of where's his head right now, and what does it mean for you to get one more of these with Sam?
It means a lot. I don't know. I mean we've talked probably 6 or 8 times, but for me to speak for him that's not fair to tell you where his head is at. But I know he's displayed remarkable leadership here in the last 48 hours. Remarkable, and I can't thank him enough for that. I know it's a very overused phrase, but he really is like a coach on the field. I mean, he's and not just on the field. He's a coach in the locker room. He's a coach on the sidelines. He's a coach on Saturday night in the off season. It's the guy exemplifies everything you want as a member of this program, and to be able to jog out there one more time with him, it's going to be pretty special. Something that I'll make sure that I soak in.
Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, on your running backs, you've obviously got a very loaded running back room. Bijan and Keonta were very highly touted recruits, and Roshan seems to have fit the role perfectly. I was just wondering, how is it that you were able to convince these 3 very talented guys who I all imagine, have NFL dreams and wanted to start, that splitting time and sharing reps wasn't just the best thing for them, but it was also, it wasn't just the best thing for the team, but it was also the best way to put them in a position to be successful?
It was actually pretty easy, I think, because, when was it, 5, 8, 10 years ago, Alabama kind of set the bar there with, the backs that they had, and guys getting, drafted very high in the draft with, 10, 12 carries a game on average. And I think everybody looked at that and said, well, this is one of, if not the most violent position in all of football. And, running back from the time they come out of the womb, in my opinion, they've only got a certain amount of carries on their body. And at some point that body is going to break down. And if you can extend your career a year or two on the back end when you're getting paid to do it, then I think that's a pretty easy sell for these guys in terms of the health and freshness of their body long term.
Jeff, go ahead.
Tom, from the standpoint of forming an identity on offense, what are some things that you feel your guys on that side of the ball can really hang their hat on right now? And where are some areas on offense that you
feel are close or need to improve in the next couple of weeks to get to where you want to be?
What do you mean areas, Jeff? What are you looking for?
Just concepts, personnel, anything that, blocking schemes, whatever it is that maybe you haven't found, up to your level of satisfaction for the first 3 games that you feel need to improve here pretty quick for you guys to get to where you want to be.
Well, I thought we protected the passer a lot better. I thought, again, the right side of the O-line had their best game. Maybe, establishing and finding the 1 or 2, run schemes that you're going to major in and kind of, where the soft spots are in the defenses maybe a little bit earlier, or things that we could improve on. I think, we still have had a few too many drops of passes that in the last couple games that can easily be fixed. But I think the offense is on a pretty good trajectory, right? I think third down we got a lot better than we were at Texas Tech. So we've been, knock on wood, we've been really good in the red zone as well. So I think we're on a pretty good trajectory. Always things that we can improve on, but I also don't want to tip my hat too much publicly either on the things that we're making an emphasis on this week.
Got time for a few last quick ones. Start with Steve.
Hey, Coach, let's talk about Keonta a little bit. Obviously, he's a big part of your offense with the out of the backfield and running the ball. He ran so hard this week, and unfortunately, it happened at the end. But how do you tell him not to try to do too much now? Is there a point where you go to him and say, "Hey, let the game come to you," and not make the game come to him? Or how does that work?
You hit the nail on the head. Keonta Ingram didn't plan on fumbling, right? And Keonta Ingram surely knows better than to try to reach the ball out. In this program, that is something that has been, it can't be emphasized to a greater degree in this program. And I think at times when you're in a tight ball game, you're down, you just had a long pass, a long run, like, this is my show. I'm gonna punch this thing in, and we're gonna win the dang ball game. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you can't do too much. You got to play within the system, play the way that you're coached to play. And this is not just Keonta Ingram. I mean, I could be talking to anybody on our team. Do the things that you're coached to do. Don't do the things that you're coached not to do. And light your hair on fire and go really, really hard for the guy next to you. And it's a pretty simple formula to understand, pretty difficult to implement, in the heat of the battle at that moment. You've got to have some very intentional self-talk in your own head and continually remind yourself that, this is not a one-man band. I don't have to go win this thing on my own, and just continue to play within the system and follow my rules, trust my training, and good things are going to happen. And so I think just a matter of reminding, and then once in the heat of battle, it's a constant conversation with yourself in your head, reminding yourself of that fact as well.